Do you actually need to change your accent in order to be understood when communicating with native speakers? Let's talk about it. Hey up mate, and cheers for finding this video today. I appreciate that. Now if you're new around here, my name is Dan, I'm a British English teacher and I'm here to help you feel more confident when communicating in English. And today we're dealing with a topic that comes up all the time. And I get millions of messages from people saying, I want to change my accent. And I ask them why, and they say, because I want to be more easily understood. And it's a very common thing that people say that I actually strongly disagree with, and we're going to talk about it. So let's jump in. If you're struggling to be understood, the problem probably is not your accent. The problem is probably how clearly you pronounce words and how you structure your speech, right? Now, loads of people really feel like they've got to get rid of their own personal accent. And maybe like this is pressure from the language teaching industry. Maybe there's like perfectionism involved, or maybe they think, okay, that accent is the standard and I want to be able to achieve the standard, so that's what it is. And I strongly disagree, as you're going to find out pretty soon. So, yeah, I don't think accent is the problem. Asterisks. Like, accent is not the problem as long as you are able to clearly say the words. Now, if your accent is stopping me from working out what word you're trying to say, then yeah, we've got a problem. But changing your accent doesn't necessarily fix that problem. Learning how to make the sounds in English correctly will fix that problem. Naturally, this will slightly reduce your accent, but not completely remove it. And I don't think we should completely remove it. So as long as you're clearly pronouncing the words and you're not being misunderstood all the time, I don't think there's much of a problem, right? So this leads us to the question, should you change your accent? And the first thing I want you to be aware of is that accent doesn't improve clarity automatically. It's not a magic wand that, you're terrible at pronouncing words in English, but if you spend time learning a Cockney accent, suddenly you're going to be magically understood. You're kind of barking up the wrong tree there, mate, to be honest with you. Like, for example, let's take an accent. Newcastle, Geordie. Now, for me, that accent is quite tough to understand because I don't spend much time around Geordies, to be honest. Not through choice. They're lovely people. I just not really had much opportunity in my life. So I don't really understand that much about proper Geordie accents, right? So I don't need to speak like a Geordie. I can speak in my own accent, like that's not fixing the problem. The clarity doesn't come from the accent. It comes from understanding the accent, So I don't think that improving changing your accent will make you easily understood. Yeah, just go to some places in England that have got accents and you'll understand why changing your accent won't make a difference. Because, yeah, accents are different. The next thing is that accents are part of your identity. I can't stress this enough. Your accent is deeply tied to who you are and where you come from. It's part of your identity. And that is awesome. That is something to be proud of. That is something to show the world. It's not something to hide away and try and erase. Accents are cool. They're part of identities. They're great. I don't ever want you to feel bad because of your identity, and your accent is part of that, So there's no need to get rid of it. It's okay. Embrace it. That's much better. And like I said, people often say, I want to learn a British accent. All right, mate, which one? Well, what do you mean, Dan? I want to sound like BBC. Oh, well, that's one British accent. There's loads of them. They're all different. And when you say, I want to learn a British accent, why? Because it's the most correct one. No such thing. There's no such thing as a correct accent. It all depends. UK's got a minimum 50 different accents, and each of those accents has got people that love it and people that bloody hate it. And it's no different. than any other accent. So like a BBC News, RP accent, that's quite hated by a lot of British people. And it's not natural. It's only like 2 or 3% of the country that speak that way. So why do people get a bit obsessed with sounding that way? Oh, it sounds British. Kind of. There's no such thing. So no matter which accent you choose to learn, there's going to be problems. There's going to be people that don't like it. There's going to be people that find it difficult to understand. And that's why I don't believe that changing your accent is going to make any difference, because which accent you're actually going to choose, it don't make sense, does it? So that kind of leads us on to the common reasons that people want to change their accent. And when we look at these, we'll kind of understand what the bigger problem is, right? So the need to be perfect, and this is something that comes up with clients I work with all the time. Perfectionism, it destroys people's confidence. Coming from a recovering perfectionist, I understand. I mean, you would be shocked at the amount of effort I put into making content, and everything's got to be perfect. And I understand. But I keep telling myself this, and I want you to take this on board, is perfectionism is a trap that's designed to keep you stuck where you are. If you're going to spend your time trying to be perfect, you're going to make zero progress, because perfection doesn't exist. It's okay to want to be better, but trying to be perfect is just going to hold you back. And especially when learning a language, because we directly tie our own self-worth to that language we're learning, right? So we feel the need to be perfect to show people that we are worthwhile people. We're intelligent. We are, good at our job. We are worth paying attention to, and we are worthy of being here. And although that breaks my heart, I understand why people feel that way. They're terrified that if they've got a Spanish accent or, a Japanese accent, people are going to think they're unintelligent. Now, I can't say hand on heart 100% that will never happen, because there are plenty of arseholes in the world, and some people will judge you for your accent, but they're not the kind of people we should pay any attention to. They're just arseholes ruining other people's life. Just let them get on with it. All you can do is worry about yourself and being comfortable with yourself. And I think you can do that without changing your accent. The next, we mentioned earlier, trying to meet the standard. Now, in language education, we're constantly given tests, and we've got to reach a certain level, and we've got to reach a certain standard. We've got to get a certain score to be good enough. And, it's complete bollocks, and I don't agree with any of it. But the pressure to meet a standard, and that standard doesn't really exist. It's something that somebody made up. There's no such thing as a standard English. English is a moving, changing, breathing, evolving language. Who's to say what's right and what's wrong? Who gets the right to decide what's right and what's wrong? Nobody does. It's just opinions. And when you're trying to suit everybody's opinion, it's impossible, mate. You can't do it. You can't please everybody. So why bother trying? There's no correct accent. There's no correct standard. So these are just manufactured things that don't represent the real world. So don't waste your time. Just do what's right for you, and then be comfortable with that. That's the thing. And then the last one, it kind of ties to the first one, the fear of being judged. Now, every client I work with in my Brit Speak Success, the private coaching that I do, the one-to-one lessons, this comes up all the time. People are terrified of being judged. That as in people will think they're not good enough because their English is not perfect, and they'll be scared of being seen as an outsider, and people will judge them based on their accent. Like they're not a good person. They're not intelligent enough. They're not good enough at their job. I see it all the time. And usually that fear is 95% in the head of the person and 5% based in reality. And even that 5% is, like I said, there's plenty of arseholes in the world, and some people just enjoy making other people feel bad. But that's not the kind of person I want in my life, to be honest with you. I try and avoid arseholes at all costs because they are, in fact, arseholes. And who wants to be around an arsehole all day? Nobody. So if somebody is going to judge you based on your accent, Who gives a shit? That's their problem. That's a them problem. It's not a me problem. If you're going to think less of me, they're the kind of person that'll judge a book by its cover, you know. Oh, I don't like the cover of that book. I'm not reading it. Well, you're probably missing out then, mate, because you're an idiot. So, you know, basically what I'm trying to say is you can't control how people are going to judge you anyway. There's nothing you can do to control that. All you can do is work out for yourself what you're comfortable with. Now, all of these things don't necessarily mean that you need to change your accent. Like, it's not really going to fix people judging you. People are going to judge you anyway, you know. And the thing is, most people don't care. Like, we're not the main character in a film, you know. Like, most people don't care enough about what we're doing. They're too busy worrying about what they're doing to worry about what you're doing. And perfection is not real. So changing your accent's not going to get you close to perfection. And if you want to be seen as above standard, well, I'll tell you now, you are above standard because there's no such thing, all right? So there are reasons that people tell me they want to change their accent and why it's not necessarily changing your accent that's going to solve it. So in that case, what is going to improve this situation, you know? Well, these are the things that I think you should probably spend your time on instead of changing your accent, you know? So the first thing is you should make sure that you can clearly pronounce the individual sounds in English. Now, different languages have different numbers of sounds, right? You know, whether it's like 26 in Ukrainian or whatever it is, or 33 in Ukraine. I don't know the numbers, right? I know in Japanese, I think it's like 48. I think, you know, I should probably look that up. But each language has got a specific number of individual sounds, and you need to learn to make those sounds correctly in English, because some of them will not exist in your language, or they're different in English to your language. You know, Portuguese speakers really struggle with the TH sound, right? They really struggle with it. Whereas Japanese people really struggle with L and R, because in their language, there is no L and R. There's a thing in the middle, which is like ra-dee-doo-de-do. And it's not L and it's not R. So they've got a thing in the middle. So then when they come to English, words like cutlery, you know, with an L and an R, just absolute nightmare for them, because they've got to spend time learning those specific sounds, right? So what I would suggest is find out which sounds are difficult for you. Now, naturally, whatever language you come from, there'll be specific sounds that are difficult, like I said. But the best thing to do, if you're not sure, is look on YouTube, or you can take my 7-day pronunciation practice power pack. So this is a daily email course for 7 days that helps you practice individual sounds in English. The link is in the description. It's available for $29, and it'll help you work out the individual sounds in English that are difficult, and it'll show you how to practice them and how to make them correctly, right? So isolate the sounds that are difficult for you and practice them. That's the first thing that you should do, because clearly being able to make the sounds correctly is, you know, step one, you know. That's going to solve so much confusion. The next thing is learning kind of more advanced pronunciation stuff. And what I'm talking about is things like stress, intonation, linking, rhythm, because these are much more likely to help you sound natural. And if you get them wrong, that's what's going to make you sound unnatural. And we're going to talk about it a bit later on. But learning these more advanced techniques is way more valuable than trying to learn a specific accent, you know, because accent is just individual pronunciation of sounds usually. So yeah, I think spending time on that is probably going to be much more valuable for you. Understanding different accents you might encounter. Now, this is what I mean about learning an accent. When people say learn, they usually mean they want to speak with that specific accent, right? I don't think you should do that, but I do think you should learn specific accents, right? Now, like I said, in the UK, there's 50 different accents minimum, and they all sound a bit different. So if you spend your time learning BBC News English, you know, you spend all your time listening to RP accents, and then you end up in Newcastle, good luck, mate, because you're going to need it, because nobody in Newcastle is going to sound like that. So learn the accent of the specific area that you're going to spend time in. And if you're not going to spend time in a specific area, don't waste your time learning different accents. Don't matter. But, if you're going to live in Birmingham, work out what a Birmingham accent sounds like. What do they do that's different? So that'll help you understand other people. Doesn't mean you need to sound that way. You don't need to do it yourself. I mean, if you really want to, you can. So as if you're like an actor or something, maybe it's a good idea. But you don't need to sound like the people around you. You just need to be understood by them. And you don't need to copy their accent. You just need to understand it. So I would spend time, if you're going to live in the UK, working out where you're going to live and the accent of the people that surround you, and spend a bit of time working out, what's going on under the bonnet, what's going on behind the scenes. Like, why do they say things a little bit differently? And then the last thing, the one thing I want you to really take away from today's episode is embrace your accent. It's awesome. It's something to be proud of. It's not something to change. It's not something to erase. It's part of your identity, and that is cool. We don't want to get rid of it. We just want to be understood. So maybe you just need to tweak some of the pronunciation a little bit. And yeah, basically that's what I think in terms of, do you need to change your accent? Nah, not really. And now it's over to you. Which sounds in English are the most difficult for you to make? Let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll make a video about it in the future. If you want to get even better at pronouncing individual sounds in English, why don't you check out my 7-day email course, the Pronunciation Practice Power Pack. It's got audio, it's got diagrams, it's got videos, it's got everything you need to practice making the individual sounds in English. It's $29 and the link is in the description. And if you want to get even better at pronouncing things in English, why don't you check out this video next?